Hey everyone, it's Jananie and welcome back to my channel, The Story Ain't Over. So today I'm doing one of the most requested videos I've ever gotten, which is tips to get you out of a reading slump. So I have had reading slumps here and there throughout my reading experience. I had a really bad one in 2019, I feel like, and every now and then I feel one coming on, and I use these 10 different tips to get me out of them. I hope these tips are useful to you and that you will find something that will finally get you out of that reading slump that you've been feeling. So without further ado, let's just get into my top 10 tips for getting you out of a reading slump. So the first tip is inspired by the sponsor of today's video, which is Likewise. So thank you so much to Likewise for sponsoring this video. This is actually the second video that I'm working on with them because I just had a great time the first time and you guys were so supportive of that first sponsorship, which has just really helped to support my channel. But the reason I wanted to mention Likewise in this video as the first tip for getting you out of a reading slump is because Likewise is a really awesome, beautifully designed recommendation app. We have all been there where we are trying to find the next book to read or the next show to watch on Netflix, and we end up scrolling through endless lists and can't find what we want to read. And so Likewise is the answer to that. Likewise is the best place to discover and share recommendations for books, TV shows, movies, podcasts, and more. It is powered by a combination of smart technology and recommendations from real people. So Likewise brings you recommendations through a lot of different ways. The first way is through the Today cards, which sort of work like a dating app. You get these personalized recommendations that come in every day and you can swipe through them as you please until you find something that you like or want to read, and you can save things from the Today cards as well. And so the way the saves work is that if you find a book that you're interested in, you can save it for later using the save icon, and then you'll be able to find it later, and it works really well to just save your TBR for later or shows that you want to watch. Another feature I really love about Likewise is the lists feature, and they curate these lists either themselves or from different sites like Entertainment Weekly or Bustle, that sort of thing. And these are just lists that follow different themes that you see in these different roundups. And then another way that Likewise uses lists is that if you would like to create specific, book lists, you can do that. So if you want a list of romance books that you're interested in, you can save them to a specific list. If you want to save a specific list of thrillers that you're interested in, you can also do that. And so it's really easy. You can organize all the things that you're interested in into these specific lists. One really cool thing that I love about Likewise is that you can also do asks. So you can put out an ask into the community that is on Likewise and see who replies with answers to it. So if you are, say, looking for a new thriller to pick up and you don't know thrillers that well and you're not really sure how to gauge what you'll enjoy, you can ask for something specific, type something in to Likewise and post it, and people will respond. And there are some really great books that you can find that way. I was scrolling through other people's asks as well, which is also a really great way of just looking for things that you didn't know you were looking for and finding great recommendations. And then the last thing that I absolutely love about Likewise is that it is directly connected to Amazon and Goodreads. So you can either buy a book directly from the app, clicking into the Amazon link, or you can click directly into the Goodreads link. And so you can see how it's rated on Goodreads, and it shows up on the main page on Likewise as well. But if you want to go read those reviews on Goodreads, you can just click through. And so in that way, it's a really convenient and seamless experience while you are searching for your next favorite read. And so in this way, I feel like Likewise is just an awesome way to get a recommendation for a new book that you're looking to read, or if you're feeling a reading slump coming on and you don't know what to pick up next, this is the perfect way to stop it from happening using a recommendation app. So if you're interested in Likewise, you should definitely go check it out and use the custom link in my description on likewise.com/thisstoryaintover2. So this is the second video that I'm doing with them, and it's all due to the wonderful support that you guys gave on the first video that I did with them. So thank you so much. Definitely go check it out. I know a lot of you were really interested in it, and I do think that it's really great if you are looking for just personalized recommendations or just ways to find books if you don't have a lot of people in your life who read. It's just a great way to build some community as well. And you can also go follow me on Likewise. My username is thisstoryaintover, the same thing as my channel. So yeah, definitely go download the app and we can chat there as well. So yeah, go check out that link, and thank you so much to Likewise for sponsoring this video. All right, so tip number 2 is one that I feel like has really totally saved my life, especially this year and last year with just working full time and having not as much free time as I did when I was in school, and that is using audiobooks to read. So I'm not even gonna get into the discussion of people saying that audiobooks are not reading. They definitely are, and it's totally ableist to say that it's not. But yeah, audiobooks are just a really great way of, listening to a book while you're doing other things that, involve your hands, like say folding laundry or doing some journaling, or just when you don't feel like, using your eyes. Sometimes I'm just really tired at the end of a night, so I'll just listen to an audiobook before bed. And it's just a really great way of absorbing a story in just a different form. And one of the things that I love about audiobooks is that because it is someone telling you the story, it's harder to actively stop reading. Someone is just telling you and they just continue going unless you like pause the audiobook. And so in that way, I feel like my mind wanders a lot less when I'm listening to an audiobook versus me reading off the page and starting to think about, what I'm gonna eat for lunch that day, or like, something I'm stressed about. And so in that way, I feel like an audiobook really keeps me focused on the story, and I have to listen properly if I want to know what's going on. And so in that way, it just like keeps your mind on the book. So a lot of you asked me where and how I listen to audiobooks, and I mainly use 3 different apps for them. So the first is Scribd, which is a subscription-based audiobook app where you get access to a whole library of books and ebooks and audiobooks and like articles and also podcasts as well for a specific amount of money each month, and it sort of works like Netflix. And so if I want to pick up a book, I'll usually search for it on Scribd, and if it's there, I'll just listen to it. But one thing I will say about Scribd is that their library of books sort of changes similar to the way that Netflix does, but in a more frustrating way, in the sense that sometimes if you listen to a lot of audiobooks, some of them will become unavailable to you for the remainder of the month. So it's slightly limited, but I think overall, most of the books that I want to read, especially in terms of YA, are on Scribd. The other app that I use a lot is Libby, which is the library app. So it basically allows you to connect directly with your local library, and you can directly borrow audiobooks and ebooks from your library through the app. And so you don't need to go in person to the library, you just have to download them through the app. And so in that way, I really enjoy it. The only downside is just that, they have limited copies, so sometimes a book won't be available to borrow, but you just have to like put it on hold and you can get it later. So yeah, that's another one that I use a lot. And both apps are like really beautiful in their app interface and really easy to use. The last one is Audible, which I don't actually use that much. I only use Audible when I want to listen to a very specific audiobook that is only on Audible. It's like an Audible exclusive, because most of the time, basically all the other audiobooks are available on either Scribd or Libby. The thing I find about Audible is that it's a little bit more on the pricier side. It doesn't really work like a Netflix subscription. You only get 1 credit per month, and you only can buy 1 audiobook with that credit. And then if you want to get more, you can like buy extra credits, or you can buy like the audiobook for full price, which is usually a lot of money. So yeah, I usually only use it when like there's a specific book I want. All right, so tip number 3 to get you out of a reading slump is to read a fast-paced book. I think this one's a pretty obvious one, and one that I feel like works the best for me. Whenever I feel a reading slump coming on, it's usually because I am like slogging through a really long like fantasy book or something that's really dense that takes a while to like get into and be immersed in. And it's just the type of thing that like takes multiple days to actually read, rather than something that I can read in like a single evening. So yeah, one book that I always recommend as a fast-paced book is Warcross by Marie Lu, just because this one is like a bit of a sci-fi / real world story, and it's got sort of a whirlwind romance and also a really interesting sort of mystery going on, and it's just a quick read. And I also do have a full recommendation video of short and fast reads that you can definitely go check out. I think I posted it in like February or something, and I'll leave it linked down below or on the screen. So I think that like short books or fast-paced books are really great because you just feel like you've accomplished something once you've finished it. And they usually are a little bit more on the fun side. And so it just makes you feel good once you've finished them. All right, tip number 4, it may be a little bit of a controversial opinion, but that is to say, just don't read. I think we often have this impression as readers that, we need to just be constantly reading, and like if we miss a week or like a month, we don't feel like a reader anymore, but that is not the case. You're a reader anytime, regardless of how often you read. And so I think sometimes just taking a break, focusing on a different hobby, or doing more things outside or with friends, I think that's totally okay. You will feel more energized to pick up a book later on if you take some time away. I definitely do this when I'm like more stressed out or I want to spend more time with friends, and I feel like I always come back feeling a lot more excited to read once I've taken a little bit of time away. All right, tip number 5 is to read something out of your comfort zone. I find that I really like fantasy, and so a lot of times like I'll pick up a lot of fantasies in a row, and then I will sort of, feel a bit tired because I've been reading sort of similar things. And the same goes for the opposite. Like I really like YA contemporary, and sometimes if I read too many at once, I feel a slump coming on. But I do think that like reading completely out of your comfort zone is also really great because it gets you thinking about different things and trying something different. And you'll often find that you may discover something that you didn't know that you enjoyed. So if you usually read like contemporaries, it might be a good idea to pick up a fantasy, or vice versa. If you usually read a lot of fiction, it might be a good idea to pick up some nonfiction, or vice versa. Overall, I think the idea is just to like break you out of your comfort zone and away from something you're familiar with, and to try something new and experience something new, and you might find that you are enjoying yourself more, and maybe not. I think you just have to be open to trying. Tip number 6 is probably pretty obvious, but it's just to read something you know you're going to enjoy. So whether that's a new release that you're really excited for and that a lot of your friends have enjoyed, or it's just picking up a book in a genre that you really like. So I might pick up like a sci-fi because I know I'm gonna love it, or a fantasy because I know I'm gonna love it. Or if there's like a book that I've been anticipating for a while and it's coming out soon, that might be the book that I pick up next, and I might just wait until that comes out. Just picking up something that you know you're gonna enjoy just gives you this comfort and ability to just like fall into the story and not worry too much about whether you're gonna enjoy it. And the hope is that you actually will enjoy it and that you know your reading taste well enough. This may not work as well if you are new to reading and you're not sure what you really like, but if you do know what you like, I feel like this one often is pretty good at getting you out of a reading slump. All right, number 7 is one that works really well if you pick the right type of book. And so number 7 is to reread an old favorite, but one that you've mostly forgotten the plot for. And the reason I say this is because I find that when I reread an old favorite, a lot of times like it's really nice and enjoyable, but for the ones where I have, say, read it pretty recently and I'm rereading it quite soon after, or the ones where like I distinctly remember what happens, I find that I sort of get a little bit bored. Even though I love like what's going on and like the characters and all that, I sort of drag my feet through the reread. But for ones that I don't remember the plot to, and for ones that it's been quite a while, like maybe a few years or maybe like 5 years, I find that I really, really enjoy those rereads. And so I think like at the end of 2020, I did a reread of An Ember in the Ashes, and this was such a fantastic reread because it had been a while since I read the first one. I think I read it in 2018, so it'd been like maybe 2 years, and I didn't really remember the specifics of what happened in the book, but I remembered like the overall feeling and the general plot structure of the book. But there were a lot of little things that happened throughout the book that I didn't remember going into it, and so I really, really enjoyed it the second time around. Same thing happened with the Shadow and Bone trilogy. When I read that the second time, there's a lot of things that I forgot the first time, and so rereading it again, I had a totally different perspective on it. I think rereading old favorites, books that you enjoyed, gives you that comfort that you know you're going to probably enjoy it. But when you pick up one that you don't really remember as well, it just gives you that little bit of excitement as well as you're trying to remember what the plot twist actually was and that sort of thing. I would use this trick sparingly so you're not running through all of your old favorites, but I do think it's one that's worked really well for me. All right, so tip number 8 has sort of 2 sides to it. So it's either to read at the same time every day and sort of give yourself a schedule, or if you're the type of person who already has a schedule, it's to switch it up. So maybe read a little bit more sporadically, or only when you feel like picking up a book rather than forcing yourself to do it. So this sort of works for me depending on how I'm feeling. So there's some weeks where like I read really sporadically, and because I'm not, forcing myself to actually pick up a book and like read for a little bit before bed or something like that, I just end up not reading at all, and I feel a slump coming on, and so it just gets that much harder to pick up a book the next time. So when I'm feeling like that, I try to give myself a schedule. I'm gonna like read 15 minutes before bed, and sometimes those 15 minutes work really well because I might like finally get past like a boring section of a book, and then I'm getting into the good juicy part, and because I've been working through it like inch by inch each day, I finally get to the good part, and so I'm feeling better about reading and I finish the book. But it might also be like the flip thing. You might be having the schedule of like reading every day and like, you know, 15 minutes before bed, but whatever you're reading may not be as interesting as you wanted it to be, or it's just not the right time for you to read it. Maybe you are going through other things in work or at school and you just need to take some time off. And I think that's okay. This is sort of similar to the earlier tip about just like taking a break. So I think just like switching up your schedule to either be more structured or less can really help. Number 9 is a really fun one, and one that I tried recently and absolutely loved, and it's to either read with a buddy or read with a book club. So I've never really done a buddy read before. I've done like a couple that sort of have worked well for me, and it just really depends on like if you're reading with someone like you're really close to or someone you like know a little bit well but not too well. But I think book clubs are a lot of fun because it's this idea of like knowing you have to finish a book by a certain date for a discussion, and so that sort of motivates you to actually finish it. But then you also have this really nice added aspect of community where you can discuss the book as you're reading, but also, you know, discuss it for the actual event that you're doing. So I really felt this when I co-hosted the book club event with Overachiever magazine for Blackwater Sister by Jen-na-nee. I was sort of dragging my feet on this one, but knowing that I had the book club event coming up, I sort of forced myself to finish the rest of this book and just like power through. And I found that by the end, I really enjoyed the book and had so many things that I wanted to talk about. And so I was so excited to discuss those things during the event. And just having the event itself was just so much fun because we got to talk about the like intricacies of some of the themes in the book and like some of the things that we found like totally insane. And it was just so much fun just having that aspect of community. And I felt like, you know, if I had been reading this by myself, I may have fallen into a reading slump. But since I had that aspect of other people waiting on me and other people also ready to discuss the book, I was a lot more excited to read it. All right, number 10 is probably an obvious one and one that I've sort of touched on already, but that's just to remember that reading is supposed to be fun and that you can take a break if you need to and that you shouldn't feel forced to read. So if you find yourself, you know, comparing how many books you're reading to like someone else on Goodreads or like, you know, even me, like don't worry about that. As long as you are reading books that you are enjoying and having fun with, that is all that matters. If you are getting something out of the books that you are reading, even if they may not be your favorite ones, I think that's still a win. Reading is often a hobby for a lot of people. For me, it's a little bit of work, and so in that way it can be demotivating. But I think that just remembering that this is something that you enjoy, that enriches your life, and that is just overall a great way to spend your little time on this earth. I think it's just like important to remember those things. And whether you are like picking up new releases like everyone else or reading older books or ones that you specifically enjoy that other people may not enjoy, like just don't worry about all of these other extra things. You are doing awesome with the way you were going, and you should never really let these other things cloud the way you enjoy this hobby. All right, but those are my 10 tips for getting you out of a reading slump. Thank you so much to Likewise for sponsoring this video. And I really hope you guys will check out the link in my description and download Likewise. It's on .likewise.com/thisstoryaintover2. Yeah, I think it's a really great way of getting recommendations and getting you out of a reading slump, so you should definitely check it out. But I would love to hear from you guys what you thought of these tips. Are any of these ones that you use regularly to get out of a reading slump, or are there some that I missed and that you think would work really well for the people watching this video? I would love to hear what you guys have to say, and I think that some of these have been sort of inspired by things that you guys have told me before, so I'd really be excited to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you so much for watching. Go check out my Instagram and Twitter and Goodreads in the description down below, and please remember that this story ain't over. Bye!